Hi, this is Karen Walby Solomon, and welcome to my podcast, Crushing On. Welcome to episode 8. We're all in the thick of August, which is a very important month. Firstly, because it's my birthday month. I turned 31 yesterday, which is a big age, but I'm excited. If you haven't wished me yet, you can still send me happy belated birthday. I will accept it for the rest of the month. But this is also Women's Month in South Africa, which is a very important time where we honor women who have done so much. And in this turbulent time when our gender-based violence cases are just rising, when women are constantly in danger, I feel like every day, I'm sure we do all feel like every day should be Women's Day. We should be protecting and honoring and loving women in this country, but let's be real, that is not the case. So I don't know what shape this month's going to take, but I hope that our issues will be taken more seriously. We have a long way to go. The men in this country need a lot of education, a lot of rewiring of the way that they think. And I don't know how that's going to be solved, but I hope that we can create something positive out of this month, that we can celebrate and support and work with women across the board who are trying to make things better for others. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, this is a difficult time. It is a hopeful time, despite the lockdown, despite COVID, despite the pandemic. In other women news, we have many exciting things happening with regards to the podcast. We can't say anything yet, but we will reveal it within the next couple of weeks. We are very excited. This podcast has been such a great venture for us. And yeah, it's created by 2 women. We do everything ourselves, and this has just been so fruitful, and we'll be getting so much great feedback. And none of this would have been possible without you guys that listen to this consistently, who engage with us on social media, who send us messages of support. We really, truly appreciate it. I know I say this every week, but once again, we really, truly appreciate it. So today on the podcast, we have an exciting guest, Tash Montlake, the world's, I don't know about the world, but definitely South Africa's biggest Taylor Swift fan. We couldn't have spoken about folklore without bringing Tash on the show. And it was just such a lovely discussion from someone who is such a great fan of Taylor Swift, and it was very knowledgeable for us to learn more from her. She's also an assistant director, and she spoke a bit about her experiences on set, the South African film industry, what she likes, what she doesn't, and we spoke quite a bit about horror movies, which I know nothing about, and I am terrified to watch them. But, she kind of convinced me. Let's just say by the end of the podcast, I was super keen to start watching horrors, which I thought would never happen. Otherwise, please enjoy, let us know what you think, and I'll catch you at the end of the episode.
First of all, it is very, very exciting to talk to you, especially today because the Emmy nominations just came out. And I know you are the one person I would have gone straight to Twitter to talk to. So, it's cool. I just looked at all of them now, like literally moments before we started talking. And it's an interesting year because there's no Game of Thrones, there's no Fleabag. It's kind of like a free fall. And Netflix, bless Netflix, they've kind of beaten a record of the most nominations, which is just fantastic for the streaming era. I think it's wonderful. But you wanted to know what I've been watching and listening to. Let's talk about that. I have, first of all, the biggest thing I've been crushing on is obviously Taylor Swift. We cannot have a podcast without me talk about Taylor Swift. And she just released a new album, which is called Folklore, and it has been on repeat since the day it came out. I'm in love with it. I'm such an avid fan. In fact, this past weekend, I should have been at her show. So I was dreading this weekend coming, just like, how am I going to how am I going to live through this weekend? And then she drops an album, and I was nervous because it's like a folk album, and I thought it would be really shit, but it's not.
So did you know that Taylor Swift was going to release a new album? I know you tweeted that she posted on Instagram.
Not a clue. Not a clue. I thought it would maybe be, because she started posting like square by square. So she did a 9 square grid. And I was like, oh God, we're going to have to dig through little Easter eggs and count the trees. And I thought it was going to be a music video. But it wasn't. It was an entire album. And I have a DM group on Twitter with 30 other South African Swifties, and my phone was just exploding. I didn't know what was happening. I was in this like tunnel for about an hour, and my poor boyfriend went for a run, and he comes back and he finds me, I'm on the floor, just like having my first asthma attack in a year. Oh God, no, I had no idea. I was speaking to my friend Kelly. I was like, usually we have, a single, and it's with her, it's always a perfect release schedule, and there's a music video and lyric videos, and there's time between the songs, the singles, and then the album comes out. But this was just like, boom, here you go, enjoy it, have fun. Lockdown sucks, so here, feel better.
So maybe tell us more about your journey with Taylor Swift, how you fell in love with her.
Well, it was at school. My father lived in the Caribbean, and I met these people who were from the deep South in America, and they listened to a lot of country music, and they were like, yeah, there's this new girl, she's our age, she's making music. I was 16 at the time, and the first song I ever heard was Tim McGraw, and then I came to South Africa, and country music just doesn't exist here. And I started, like, You Belong With Me was the first song to kind of hit the charts in South Africa. But I was quite a big nerd at school. I had, like, a good group of friends, but I was not a cool person. I haven't changed. I'm cool now. Everyone caught up with me now. But back then I wasn't cool. And I just refused to tell anyone that I was obsessed with Taylor Swift. Then when 1989 came out, I changed my ringtone to Shake It Off. And I've never changed it back. If you call my phone now, it's Shake It Off. And that was like my secret thing. And I always used to tell, the boyfriends that I dated or whatever, it's like, Taylor Swift's my guilty pleasure. Meanwhile, I like sit there and like wait for these album releases online and go on to all these weird Tumblr blogs and try read all of her like weird Easter eggs that she's dropped. And in every album, she always did like hidden messages in the album lyrics, with capitalized letters and things. And I really related to her because she manages to tell stories and in a way that I feel like she's writing about my life. And I just absolutely, it's never stopped because we are exactly the same age. So I've gone through everything with her, even with the last album, Lover, which is about her finally finding love. Like the same thing happened to me. It's just wonderful. She's always been there for me musically. And, I play the piano and I play the guitar, and it's her songs are really simply composed and they're so fun to play. It's perfect pop music. And I just adore the way she loves her fans. She just cares about them so much. In the 1989 era, we call each album release an era, she had a thing called Swiftmas, and she bought and personally delivered presents to all of her fans. There were about 30 or 40 fans who received, I'm talking like giant FedEx boxes full of presents. And she has meet and greets before all her shows, and her mother picks the people. The mother walks around the stadium and then sees if anyone's wearing a cool costume or was dancing and singing along, and she picks them out, and then they go and meet Taylor. And she refuses to pay for it. It's all about the fans, and she's always thanking us, and she's always grateful. It's like she knows exactly what we have done for her, and she just wants to give back to us. I saw the opening night of the Reputation Stadium tour. The opening night. I went on my own. I was visiting my friend Dan Mace. He's a YouTuber. He flew me over to New York to go hang out with him. And I was there and I realized the date and I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to go. So I flew to Arizona and I went to watch her by myself. It was the best experience of my life, honestly. Yeah, just wonderful.
For me, the Fearless album was, I don't know, I had like an epiphany. I don't know if I was like going through something very weird at the time, but I bought the CD and she had like this letter to her fans at the end about what being fearless means. And I think that, so I wrote it out. There's like so many copies of that written around in like notebooks in my house. I always think that has meant so much to me because I feel like I based most of my life on that. And I think it's the same thing what you said. Like, I always felt like we don't have a lot in common, Taylor Swift and myself, because she's like, a fairly well-off white woman from the US. But I mean, I'm also born in 1989.
Yeah, she's yeah, me too. She's like the perfect little white girl. I get it. But it's like, I understand that.
Why do I understand so much of what? So I think it is exactly what you said. If I had explained it to anybody, it would be exactly what you said. It's like she has a way of anyone being able to relate to her, which is why she has such a big fan base.
Yeah, it's the human experience that she's writing about.
Yeah.
And especially emotions, and being in touch with emotions. That's her vibe.
100%. Maybe tell us a bit more what an assistant director does.
Oh, I would love to. No one ever asks me this question. Yes. Okay, so the assistant directing department is basically in charge of the scheduling and the cast. And on the day, that's a film term, on the day, on set, we run the show. So we are the people who call cut. The director shouts action and then we tell the actors, okay, action. And there's different layers of the assistant directing department. So you have the first AD on the top who is standing on the floor on set running things. He is in charge. The director speaks to all of us to speak to him, but he is the one who's like, okay, is everyone ready? What's happening? The timing, it's all got to be perfect. And he's the one who does the schedule. So like we'll have a week, or depending on what we're shooting, over 2 weeks or whatever, he puts that together. Or she. There's a lot of, I don't know why I'm so like, I always say that the first AD is a man. I need to stop doing that because I want to be a first AD one day. Anyway, so then there's the second AD, and that's the job that I know I well and truly belong in. And it's actually on level with a first AD. The second AD does the elusive document, which is called the call sheet. And the call sheet has every single tiny little bit of information on it for the shoot day. So does the props department need blood today? We ask the props department. Does costume need a certain costume or double costumes? Literally every tiny little bit of information is on the call sheet. And that document is put together every single day. It also has all the call times for all the actors and all the crew. And it tells us what time we need to be on set. It also has the information of what we're shooting for the day, what scenes we're shooting, when we're shooting them, and in what order. And it is the pivotal document for being on set. Everyone gets a copy every day. And that's the second AD's main job, is to, it's not only to plan for the day, but it's to plan ahead. It's like, okay, in 2 weeks' time, we have Korean people that are going to be on set. We need a Korean interpreter. We also need the Korean to be changed in the script to English. Like, who's going to do that? We have a stunt performance that's happening where there's a big stunt, there's a huge car crash. Have the actors had their driving lessons? Do they need to go for driving lessons? Do they need to go for stunt training? All of that happens in the second AD's head. It's a fantastic job. And me as a third AD, I predominantly work underneath the second, and my job is at the base camp. So in the morning, I'm the first one there. I make sure that the actors get ready and put their makeup on, or have the makeup artist put their makeup on, get their costumes on, and all of that is timed. I'm not even joking. It's like, okay, it's 1 hour and 15 minutes to do this person's makeup, then 15 minutes for costume, and then it's 15 minutes to drive to set. It's all written on the call sheet, and that is like, it's my holy grail. And I stand there and I look after the actors when they're in the base camp. And then we have the third AD, my counterpart on set, who usually stands with the director. And the director will tell him, okay, can you ask the actor to go left or right? And then he will tell the second AD. So this is where it gets a little confusing. We have this amazing, an amazing title, which is the second AD, or the floor second. And he is right underneath the first AD. So while the first AD is thinking of all these million things, the second is actioning it. So he's okay, so we need to lock off that door. No one's allowed in that door. You, little PA, you go lock off that door. So that's his job. And we are like a fully working machine. We speak to each other on radio all day, and we are the cogs pretty much. And I am so surprised that we actually don't have, an Emmy or an Oscar for us, because we are the ones who make it happen. And it's really rare that a director will thank their ADs. I know that someone did it at the Oscars this year, and I just burst into tears. I was like, thank you for acknowledging us, because people don't even know what my job is. Like my family don't even know what I do. They just know I work in movies. Sorry, I hope that wasn't that was a lot. I talked for a long time. I'm sorry.
No, that's what we wanted to know. The film industry is like a tough one. I know that. And I know that South Africa was investing a lot in it before COVID. So how do you think things will change after the pandemic?
So the thing about the South African film industry, and what I've noticed, I'm just a small fish in a giant ocean. But what I've noticed is that the international crews come down here because of our locations and because of our extremely professional crews. We are so bloody good at our job. And there's something amazing that just happened today, that Netflix has donated 8 million rand into a relief fund to help the freelancers in South Africa, because I said in a tweet, you guys would be shocked to know what we've worked on. I mean, we did the Black Mirror episode that won the Emmy, which is San Junipero. And we also did the one with Miley Cyrus. There's so many times watching a movie, you'll be like, shit, is that Cape Town? It probably is Cape Town. We are so on par with, Hollywood, that I don't think much is going to change. It is scary to think about people coming here, and, our current rates at the moment are very high, and it doesn't look like much is happening in terms of international jobs, which is, it's really scary, to be honest. I don't think it'll change much, because those two things will not change. The locations and our professionalism, that will not change. And people do want to shoot down here. And that gesture from Netflix just shows me that. Yeah. That's what that says to me, is that Netflix are committed to continue their work down here. And I think it's just so lovely. I had a little cry when I woke up this morning. It's like, we are valid and our work is appreciated. It's lovely.
I saw your TikTok where you showed all your gifts and mementos that you got from cast members. Who's been your favorite people that you've worked with?
My favorite person that I've worked with, God, I've had so many amazing cast members. I think Jodie Whittaker was one of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. She was just a whirlwind of happiness. It was on the set of Doctor Who. She was so lovely, and I'm a huge fan. I have a Doctor Who tattoo. After I worked on the first season I did with her, I went and got it. And she was just so welcoming to me, and made sure that all the little departments got to like show me things. She was like, did you speak to the props department? Did you speak to them? Are you sure you spoke to them? Because I asked them. Yeah, she just made me feel like really special. The day that she found out that I was a Whovian, she literally kicked the door open when I tried to open the door for her when she arrived back from set in the evening. She's like, I didn't know that you were Whovian. Selfie, immediately, right now, let's go. And then at the end of the job, we were working on the episode it was all about Rosa Parks. It's actually such a beautiful episode, and I was so proud to have actually worked on it. And I went up to set to see the famous bus that they had recreated. And she'd said to me, she's like, I just realized that I don't have a picture with you in costume. So she made Tosin, who's the other actor, take a picture of the two of us. And it was just so sweet. Like, just a really lovely woman. And I mean, I cannot answer this question without commenting on the cast of Warrior. And I worked on this show. It was a HBO Cinemax job based on the writings of Bruce Lee. And it's available on Showmax if you want to go watch it. I worked on season 2, and the cast it was very rare that they all got along. There was very little furibbles and drama. It was just wonderful. And it is a rule of mine, like, not to get too close to the cast. They're not my friends. I am there to help them and to direct them. But with that cast, I still see them. I still talk to them on the phone. They are my friends, and I don't know how it happened. They were just a group of very wonderful, very special people. God, I miss them so much. Oh my God, Pearl Tusi. Pearl Tusi. She needs a huge shout out. That she had to deal with. I think she saw my Taylor Swift tattoo, and she was like, girl, I don't understand this. What's happening here? And I'm like, I love Taylor Swift. And she's like, I love you for it. Go wild. That's fine. And then she always used to play music on set, like really loud all the time. And she would like come out of the makeup truck and be like playing Taylor Swift for me. She was the best. I miss her with all my heart. She is such a lovely, she just shines. You know how like, if you ever meet a famous person, they sort of have this like quality about them that's like, you want to just take a step back and just stare at them because they have such a presence. And Pearl has that, like she's got it. It's like got it,
Yeah, I can very much see that. What would you like to do in the future? Like, what is your ideal set that you would want to be on? Like, or show you would want to work on, a movie, or person you'd like to work with?
I would love to work on a Korean film. I don't know how it would work. I will learn how to speak Korean. I don't care. I am just obsessed with Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook, who is my other favorite Korean director. I hope I'm not butchering their names. It'll be so embarrassing. But yeah, I'd love to work for them. And Jordan Peele.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness. Chicken, stop eating that. Sorry, he's eating my laptop.
We're gonna leave that part in, definitely.
Okay. No, Jordan Peele, he writes movies like how I wish I could write movies. I mean, when I saw Get Out for the first time, I like plutzed. It was the best movie I had ever seen. I'm obsessed with horror films, and it was such a beautifully constructed, funny horror movie, and I would love to work with him. What are those British guys' names? The What We Do in the Shadows. Taika Waititi, the Jewish Aborigine who played Hitler.
Yes. My
goodness, that man! I love him. I just want to hug him. Actually,
these sets look like so much fun. I love
his storytelling. Right? Oh my goodness. And the cast that he uses and the stories that he tells, it's so unique and fun. I love him. I feel like I should mention a few of his movies so that I'm not just, people can know what I'm talking about. But he did Jojo Rabbit and Hunt for the Wilder People, which is, if you haven't seen it, it is fantastic. fantastic. Love that movie. And then Park Chung-wook, who's my other favorite Korean director, he did the Vengeance trilogy. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it's Old Boy. Old Boy is one of the best movies of all time. Not the Stan Lee one, the Korean one, which was made in 2003. It is incredible, and it's part of it's a 3-part series, but not really. It's just 3 movies that this director made that they have the same umbrella. The thing I like about Korean films is it's always a critique of something. So my favorite Korean horror film is a critique on the education system. And these, like, the Vengeance trilogy is the radicalization of capitalism in Korea and the abolishment of communism. But the tones of the films are so below the surface, so you can just watch it as a movie. But even if you watch Parasite, it's just a whole take on the social construct of Korean life, and it's so similar to South Africa. The rich living in the high tower, and the poor who have to work for them, and the struggles that they go through. You know, you can look into those themes, and that's why I'm so in love with Korean cinema, because of that, because of these deep, meaningful things. And Jordan Peele does the same thing. He's not just making a movie, he's fucking telling you how it is, you know. But yeah, my gaze has moved a little bit away from Western television and cinema. I don't know why.
I suppose there's just so much more available.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason why I became a filmmaker in the first place was because of Quentin Tarantino. And my mom does know about my Tarantino tattoo, so you can tell everyone that I have a Tarantino tattoo. She knows about that one. But he introduced me to Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite, because he made a movie called Memories of Murder, which is also just hysterical. I love his comedy. It's so dark. And that was just when I was finishing high school, I watched that movie for the first time. And I was like, I want to make movies. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it's because of these very open-minded views that Tarantino had, because he never just makes a movie by what he sees in life. It's what he watched in films. So he was so passionate about the Korean and the Japanese, and it was just this like eclectic mix. Kill Bill is just like a mishmash of all the movies that he's ever watched, and I loved that. And I just knew that I needed to watch everything.
It's like, I always think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was like a love letter to classic Hollywood. I really love 50s, 60s movies. And watching that film it felt like, I don't know, I don't think I could make a movie like with Tarantino, but it felt like something I would make, if it makes sense. It's just totally. It's a point of view of a fan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that a lot of people, I was just talking to my cousin in England about this movie. A lot of people didn't understand it. And, I watched it and I was like, why did you do that? No one's going to get, literally there's like maybe 10,000 people that will get that joke.
Yeah.
People who worked in the film industry. And I watched it and I was like, I love it. I think it's so clever. I realize, but my cousin doesn't realize what that joke was about. And that's why that movie kind of missed people a little bit, was because it's like you said, a love letter to filmmaking. Yeah.
So I want you to talk a bit about horror movies, mainly because I don't really watch horror movies. So, and I always try and get the point to like learn more from people who know more. So what are your favorite horror movies? Like your absolute faves?
Okay. I absolutely love The Conjuring because it is heavily referencing Korean horror movies. And it was the first time that some of those shots and scary, slow burning scares were actually used in, that's why it was so sensational and had all of these spin-offs, is because I love that I'm like gesturing with my hands and no one can see me. Oh, anyway.
I do the same, it's fine.
I love The Conjuring so much. I also, I've decided, I tweeted this the other day, without a doubt, my favorite TV show is The Haunting of Hill House. 100%. Just
I wanted to watch it,
spectacular.
but I was so scared of being scared.
No, Karen, okay, listen. I'll give you some advice. And here's some advice for anyone who wants to watch a horror movie. I'm not going to tell you to turn off the sound, because then there's no point. That is a way to do it, but I don't like that way.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing to do is to ask yourself, why am I scared? Is it because of the way that I can't see anything behind the character's head? Is it because I can see everything behind the character's head? And there's, oh my God, there's an open door there. My subconscious has picked up that there's an open door, and I'm already pre-conditioned to know that something's going to jump out of there just because of what I know. Is there a mirror in the background? Is it a bit dark? Is it the sounds? Is it really the sound effects that's freaking me out here? Is it something the actor just said, or is it the underlying theme? Am I afraid of demons? Am I afraid of the dark? That's what I do. That's how I make it through these reams and reams of horror films that I watch, because I know why I'm scared. And I just happen to that. The minute that I actually do get bloody terrified, I'm like, why is that? And that is actually essentially the reason why I love horror films so much, is because it is so incredibly detailed. There's so much that goes into one single shot. That it's a work of art, every single one of them, even the shit ones. Paranormal Activity, I love them. All of them, even the really shit ones at the end of the series there, like even Saw, love Saw. Hello, chicken. Hi. Yeah. So there's not a bad horror movie. In fact, my friend Jono and I literally watch horror movies. When he lived in South Africa, we'd watch as many Netflix horror films as we possibly can. Like The Ritual is a really good one. On Chicken, I am on a podcast. Please, I'm trying to be famous here. Please. So
Chicken's like, okay, not without me.
Yeah, he's licking his bum. He's jealous. He's the famous one in this house. No, so The Ritual is fantastic on Netflix. It's like really bad, but really good. Another one that I'm obsessed with is A Tale of Two Sisters. And it is a really good introduction into Korean cinema if you are interested in it. It's about a set of sisters who have just returned home from a mental institution, and they have to deal with a really shitty stepmother. And on top of that, they also have to deal with the ghost of their mother, who has just started haunting them.
Oh.
And Korean horror movies, it's very different from American. So Western cinema loves a jump scare. So you'll always get like a big wah! Somewhere. But Korea love to burn you. So you'll have a shot with a couch, and they'll just hold the shot on the couch, and slowly but surely from behind the couch comes the monster. So that's the Korean style of horror filmmaking. It's a slow burn. It's psychological. It's painful. It's emotional. Whereas America, it's exactly like their comedy. It's slapstick and jump scares, and I don't want to say simple, because it's not simple, but it's just a different it's a different audience.
But I suppose it's also like, as you say, it's about like understanding the human experience. It goes back to that, because to understand what scares somebody, you need to know the fears they have. And how can you subtly bring back those fears? In other words.
Yeah, it's like, okay, hold on. I did write down one that I watched recently. It's called The Red Shoes, and it's a Hans Christian Andersen story tale that a Korean director has redone. I don't know why. I know it's called The Red Shoes, but the shoes in the movie are pink. Just forget about it. Just they're pink and move on. But they're evil. And in the very first scene, this woman puts on these shoes and her feet get cut off. It's so gory. And then another girl takes them home, and her roommate gets, spoilers, her roommate ends up dying. And it's just about vanity and the fear of losing your beauty. And it's such a do you want to say something? Come say something. Yeah, it's just, and that's it. That's what you're saying. It's, they want to talk about vanity. So you use an item of clothing as the epitome of the fear. I think that's very clever. And Hereditary is another one that's just absolutely stunning. It's directed by Ari Aster, who also did Midsummer, which is terrifying in a completely different way. But Hereditary is a family drama, actually. It's not really even a horror film. It's a family drama. And it's this pain of loss, of making a mistake. And I think it could be very interesting to rewatch now within the gaze of COVID-19, because there is a fear that you could give the coronavirus to a family member by just going out and doing what you're told or doing your job. And I was thinking about this like right now, actually. The boy in Hereditary ends up killing his sister by accident. She puts her head out the window and her head gets cut off. And it's he has to deal with the pain and the loss of what he did, and the guilt and the shame. And the mother's lost a child, and it's not just about all these like scary shots, and the mother goes to a psychic or whatever, and then the ghost stuff starts happening. Hereditary is inherently about family and how to deal with grief and loss. So you can always look into a horror film. Horror films aren't just about being afraid. And like a lot of people ask me, they're like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you constantly watch horror films and just not be afraid? It's like, well, for me, I think it comes down to being in touch with my emotions. And I am, how do I say this? I have an addiction. I've been sober for 8 years, and for me, the disease of addiction is being unable to tap into my emotions, and I find it extremely hard as an addict to know if I'm feeling happy or if I'm feeling sad. Like, I really do have to think about it, and I love horror films because it's so stark, the emotions in horrors and dramas. That I am so attracted to it because it's so easy to identify, and it teaches me, how to identify my emotions better. And that, we really are going very deep here, but this is why I love films so much, because you really can just surface level films and watch them, but underneath it is all about humanity and telling human stories. So yeah, that's why I love movies. It's all about like what's in your heart. Oh, there's one more film that I wrote down. And do you know what? I got tagged in a bunch of tweets today about horror films. I'm always tagged like, "Hey Tash, can you tell me which horror film to watch?" Because I've seen them all. And I didn't even respond to the thread because I was coming on here and I wanted to talk about these two movies, which I had never seen before. The one is called Whispering Corridors, and it was like the film that made Korean films famous in the 90s, and it is absolutely bloody terrifying. Whispering Corridors, and it's almost like their equivalent to our like Saw. It had like all these spin-offs. And no, in fact, it was like Paranormal Activity or The Conjuring, where all these different stories came from the same world. And I've just seen that there's a whole bunch of them. I didn't know that. And it's set in a school. And I really don't want to say too much because I really don't want to give anything away. But you have to watch Whispering Corridors if you are a fan of horror movies. It will scare you to your core.
So like this is just something that I'm like curious about. But with horror series, I feel like it's such a special art to maintain like a horror genre or like a horror story over maybe 10 or 12 episodes. So what do you think of that as a medium, like television as a medium for horror? Like, do you think it works, or how do you think they have to adapt the story?
I love television. You know what? I mean, I know every single word to Friends. I mean, the first word is theirs and the last word is where. I know every single word in between. I have always been a fan of the medium of television, and it has changed. I even think it was you and Sloan were talking about it, how, you sit down and that Seven Heaven is at 7:30 on a Tuesday or whatever. Like for me, it was Friends on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock on a Wednesday was Friends. And now it's like we are consuming it all at once. So, or sporadically. And I was listening to you guys talk about it, and like, that these kids here, they don't know how good they've got it. And it's true. As you help us storytellers, because you can consume your TV shows however you want to. And I think that's a great thing for the horror genre, because horror movies are usually much shorter just because people can't handle the fear for so long. And it's so nice to develop, the themes that I was talking about earlier in a TV show. And even, God, I love The Haunting of Hill House. Also because there's an addiction theme in it, with one of the characters being an addict and getting sober. And there is so much more time to develop a story with television. And that is what I've always just so greatly appreciated about it. And it's nice, like one episode you can look into like scary Japanese horror, like how can we bring this into the story? And then the next episode it's like, okay, cool, like let's do this like purely Western jump scares. And if you look at The Haunting of Hill House, I mean, God, I don't get scared in horror movies a lot. I have this, I call it the 3-beat situation. So I know that, an actor is going to come into the room, I'm going to get scared, but like something fake is going to happen, like the camera is going to spin or something, and I'm going to get a fright, but it's not the fright that they want me to get. Then we have the second jump scare where, like, say for instance, he'll just look up into the mirror and you think something's going to be behind him, but there's nothing there. Then within the next minute, you are going to get the bloody fright of your life, and that will be the third scare, and that's the jump scare. So I always look for those 3, and I never get scared. But in The Haunting of Hill House, there is one specific jump scare, because they use a lot of the Korean stuff that I was talking about, the slow burns. There's a lot of slow burn scares in Haunting of Hill House, but there is one. Should I say when? Shouldn't I say when? What should I do?
You can say if you want to. We can just put a spoiler warning.
Yeah, okay, this is a big spoiler warning, like big. But towards the end of the season, there's 2 of the characters are in a car. And maybe listen to this, actually, because then you won't be so bloody scared as I was and not sleep for 2 weeks. But there's 2 characters are talking in the car, and they are in a heated argument. The camera is looking into the car from the driver's side, and they are screaming at each other, but you are looking over the shoulder of the driver to the passenger seat, and this ghost just fucking jumps in between the 2 of them. I have never, my skin was crawling. I had to stop. I was crying. I screamed. Here I am, like sitting there with my cup of tea, just like, it's a very intense part of the story. It's a very important part of the character's development. Like these 2 sisters who don't speak to each other. And then this ghost jumps in between them and ruins my life. Yeah. And that was really nice for me, actually, like to be afraid, to get scared, to be shocked. And I enjoyed that, because that was like a little nod to Western cinema. And I mean, this is all my thoughts and feelings, but this is exactly what I thought that was, because they spent so much time on Eastern filmmaking that this was like, you know what? Fuck you guys, let's do it the American way. This one time. Boom.
No, that's cool. So what do you think of American Horror Story?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I started watching that, didn't I? I forgot about that. Season 1 was absolutely amazing. Just, I enjoyed it so much. I love the stories. I think, what's her name? Jessica Lange. I think she needs every award ever of all time. I don't know how many she has won, but she needs all of them. And season 2 was honestly like right up there with one of my best shows ever. It was Asylum, right? Season 2.
Not sure.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the concept that, all the seasons are sort of like interconnected, but I did stop watching it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, other things came up, TV show wise. I discovered a website called Mubi, that mubi.com. It's a subscription-based service. You do get a 1-week trial, and no, I'm not sponsored, but I would very much like to be sponsored by Mubi. But you get to watch a lot of international cinema, both old and new.
Oh, okay, that's amazing.
And yeah, so if you are interested in that, like, definitely put that in the show notes. If people are interested in other world cinema, it's just fantastic portal for that. If you have, like me, watched everything on Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus.
I watched, what is it? Screen Queens?
Oh, yes.
I enjoyed that because I didn't really watch horrors. And then because I like comedy, I was like, okay, let me try this one out. And I enjoyed it so much. I probably watched that first episode probably like 100 times. Like, people would come to me.
I've never seen it. Should I put it on my list?
It's not scary. It's more like, It's like, it's supposed to be like a slasher. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's more of like a parody. But it's also Ryan Murphy. But don't watch season 2.
Going on my list right now. Okay, Screen Queens. Done.
Everyone said I should watch American Horror Story because I like that so much.
But you should. I think you should. Give it a try. Because, I mean, at least up to the end of Asylum. If you haven't seen it, I think the season 1 and season 2 are... No, was season 2? I'm going to check. But season 2 is... Asylum is bloody brilliant.
I was told to watch Coven as well, though.
Oh, Coven. I just wanted to dress like a witch for, a month and a half after that. That was fantastic. I do like to think that I'm a witch. I mean, my mother is all into homeopathic things, and whenever I call her, she always has an answer for everything. I'm like, Mom, how do I get flies out my house? She's like, I don't know, spray some lemongrass, or like, she's always got an answer. So I'm convinced my mother's a witch. So that was very fun.
But I think going back to what you said, like, I suppose a TV show does give you a lot more room to play in. Like, I quite like comics, and I honestly feel like a comic book movie doesn't give you what you got from the comics. Whereas a TV show has so much more room to play in. Like, those limited TV shows just gave, it's like you felt like you were watching a comic in real time.
I think I'm going to give myself away here, but I do not like Marvel movies. I have seen every single one because my friend Mark, the DJ Niska one, has dragged me to every single Marvel release since the dawn of time. Very begrudgingly, I've sat through them all. But actually, if we can talk about it, one of the best cinema movie experiences of my life was going to see Black Panther. I was in an audience with predominantly Black people, and I cried the entire way through because there I was sitting, oh my God, I'm going to cry now, sitting in a huge cinema. It was that giant one in Canal Walk, and in a room full of people who were represented in their own language for the first time. Oh my God. And that's why I was so happy with reading the Emmy nominations tonight. There's so much representation on there in all spheres. I'm very impressed. And, I've been such a huge advocate, like, my whole life for women in film as well. That there's still not enough women directors in that list, and there's not enough women even getting the chance to be directors. But watching... And I know that I don't, because I'm like a little privileged white girl, I don't really have any grounds to stand on to talk about this. But I do want to say that from my perspective, it is incredibly nice to see the growth of representation for people of color, because my whole life I've had Disney princesses, and I've had this, and I've had Rachel from Friends, and my whole life I have been able to identify and grow my own personality by watching films. And my entire personality is from people from films. And the fact that we have had years for people of color to be denied that, with the Black Lives Matter movement, that's what I've been personally thinking about, and like personally thinking, what can I do, and even if it is just thinking about that and being aware of my huge privilege that I've had to grow my own personality that so many other people just haven't had. I was about to rant about Marvel movies. So
it's fine. Let's go back to the Emmys.
Yes.
So what were you excited to see on the list? Like, what did you enjoy this year? I actually haven't seen like the directors and stuff. I haven't gotten that far.
So the things I was excited to see was What We Do in the Shadows is there, The Crown, The Handmaid's Tale. Oh, Killing Eve. Sandra Oh is also nominated, and she better win. She's never won an Emmy for her incredible performance in Grey's Anatomy. I'm a new Grey's Anatomy fan. I watched it all in lockdown, all 16 seasons. She needs to win that.
So what did she won? Golden Globe.
Yes, she has won a Golden Globe. Yeah. She won the Golden Globe last year, but she needs an Emmy. Ozark is a great show. But it's also just full of white people.
I haven't seen Ozark.
Watchmen. Oh my God, Watchmen got so many nominations.
They got the most nominations out of any other TV.
You guys can't see, but I am smiling. That's wonderful news. Pose, Billy Porter. Oh, I love him. I got to work with India Moore on. Oh, I don't know if I can say. I'm not going to say.
But I know they were here recently.
Yeah. So. and I was personally responsible to look after them. And boy, did they teach me a thing or two about being transgender. It was being in Hollywood and being transgender. So this, and I've just seen now that that show on Netflix has also just been nominated, which is just huge. Hold on. Oh, Queer Eye got a nomination. That's exciting. My mom just watched Queer Eye for the first time. Oh, Becoming. Becoming's been best documentary series. Have you seen Becoming?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's all about queer representation in Hollywood. It's a beautiful, beautiful series. Yeah, no, it's a good bunch of things. I was excited. I really loved Ozark. Ozark was very well written. A great slow burn, that one. And God, there's so much here. I've seen everything.
And it's like it literally just came out. So I'm also like, I have the PDF on my phone, and it's like 61 pages.
I know. The Mandalorian.
I haven't seen The Mandalorian. Me
neither. And I'm a very big Star Wars fan, but I actually just like, I had it. Do you know what happened to me? I'd had enough of Star Wars. I was just like, do you know what? My whole life, it's been so part of my life. I'm going to watch this one, and then when the Skywalker series is, I'm done. I'm out. And then Taika Waititi announces on May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day, that he's going to be directing the next one. And I was like, well, shit, that didn't last long. Oh, God. Oh, Love is Blind. Love is Blind is one of the only reality shows that I've watched. I've worked on a reality show before, so I know how they're made. And it's very hard to watch them after you've worked on one. But I did watch Love is Blind, and that was like at the beginning of the year. Oh, it was so good.
I see they were also nominated for casting. So
yeah.
I was like, it's so exciting for reality, a dating show casting to be nominated.
Well, I mean, yes. That's the thing, is that reality TV is not reality. It is very structured. It's not often scripted, but it is driven. I think that's the best way that I can describe it. I cannot stand the Kardashians. I have no time for any Kardashian. Mostly because of what they did to Taylor Swift. But, you know, the grudge goes deep, but I don't really have time for reality TV. And, like, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with it. Like I said, I loved Love is Blind, but I do want to spend my time watching meaningful things that aren't, like, because I sounds like chickens. That sounded expensive. I don't know what just fell down there. Something happened. Anyway, I understand the draw to reality TV, that escapism.
Yeah.
Trust me, I get it. But I get that exact same feeling from watching, The Haunting of Hill House. That's just my choice. Yeah.
I like reality shows, they need to entertain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, last week we were talking about the African reality shows, and I think like they need to be a bit more driven. If that makes sense. Like we need a little bit less reality, a little bit more push in the way
it's true. It's almost like the American reality shows won't give us the secret of how to make them. You know what I mean? But I love one of my favorite things to do is to sit in front of the TV and watch MasterChef. And I've actually, like, the biggest thing that I think that I am in fact crashing on is my crocheting. I learned how to crochet. Sure. I'm a 30-year-old who finally learned how to use a bloody crochet hook from a friend from Twitter. And it was just before lockdown and thank goodness, thank the movie gods that I learned how to crochet. It has been so fun, and I actually think I'm going to start a business just selling these cute little animals that I'm making, because it's been such a release. Like, just to sit back, put the TV on. Almost everything that I have watched since lockdown has been with crocheting in my hand, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. But I love podcasts, and I do have to say that I do love your podcast. That
you don't have to. It's not like a prerequisite to be here.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I was not going to come on here and not say that, because I really enjoyed it. And like, I think I listened to Sloane's one twice, but it's because I'm obsessed with Sloane. I've met him one time, but he's just a lovely human being.
He is the greatest.
It was so funny when you asked me to join you on this, because it was right when Taylor Swift told us that she was releasing an album, and then you were like, "Hey Tash, do you want to come?" I'm like, "Oh!" Like, I didn't know what to do with my phone. I was like panicking. I could barely type to my Swifties, and then here I am being asked this like honor to join a podcast that I listen to. Like, and I've always respected your work. Like, I love the way that you speak about movies and films. It's so similar to me. So it's just such an honor to be here. And I'm not just saying that, promise.
Thank you. But thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, you are so
first white person.
Thank you so much for having me. Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's really cool. Thank you. I'm honored. It's fine. Am I your first Jew?
Yeah, definitely first.
Yes, first Jew. Oh my God, this has been the most fun hour ever. Thank you so much for having me. Seriously, I mean, you have to stop me, because I will talk about movies until the end of time. So you do have to stop me.
That was our interview with Tash Montlake. You can find her at Tash Montlake on Twitter and Instagram. The links to her social media channels, if you want to talk to her about all things horror, Taylor Swift, Harry Potter, TikTok, all that things, you can find her on her social channels. Those links and all her recommendations will be in the show notes. Me, you can find at Karen Walby on Instagram and at Karen Walbys with an S on Twitter. Also, subscribe to my Substack newsletter. This week I spoke about my thoughts on Taylor Swift's Folklore, as well as the Emmy nominations and lots of other stuff that I'm into. And yeah, I go a lot more in depth than I do on the podcast. So if you're interested, subscribe. Link will be in the show notes as per usual. You can find the podcast at Crushing on Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and at crushingonpodcast.com. You can send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show. So please rate and review. All episodes are edited and produced by Rebecca Barges. And thank you so much for listening. See you next week.